finishing the task of the Great Commission. God's mission of redemption must be done, must be completed. So we will be mobilizing the global Pinoys to finish the remaining task of world evangelization. We want to see the global Pinoys go where there is no gospel. Well, it's very interesting that, in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this is what was taught. But they said there's a new version. And they added that the most basic human need now is Wi-Fi, which is actually true, because wherever you go, you normally ask, is there Wi-Fi? What's the password? So because of this, you see social media is really becoming more popular nowadays, gadgets as well, and even the more mature ones are using cell phones. So this is a very funny picture. They said, imagine if there were cell phones during the, when the people of Israel were crossing the Red Sea. So it might be a very good, time to really have a laugh looking at, Moses leading them. Hey, let's keep moving. Anyway, why they call them the next generation? This is the explanation. Talking about generation gap. So anyway, video streaming, podcasts, hashtags, smartphones, and apps, Zoom. These are many, of those that had been introduced as a result of technology and how it's becoming more popular nowadays. So we can see here that indeed so many changes have taken place in the last 10, 20 years. But of course, the Great Commission is still the same. But let me share this also. They said, technically, Moses was the first person with a tablet downloading data from the cloud. And surprise, surprise, they said that the oldest computer can be traced back to Adam and Eve. And it was an Apple. But with an extremely limited memory, just one byte, and everything crashed. And of course, nowadays, AI is becoming very popular. So, finishing the task of the Great Commission. As I was saying, many things have changed, but the mandate of the Great Commission is still remain the same. So, in Mark 16:15, we are mandated to go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. In Matthew 28, we have the mandate of discipleship, to go and make disciples of all nations. So what is the Great Commission? Well, I would like to point out the key word there. One of the key words, of course, is the word nations. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations. Well, the word nation is actually the Greek word ethne. That's where we get the English word ethnic, which means people group or tribal groups. So a country is a politically defined geographical territory, but nation, ethnos or ethne, is an ethnic group or people groups. So what's a people group? It's a group of individuals who share a common history and heritage and have similar ethnic, linguistic, and cultural traits. There are still about 7,000 unreached people groups in the world today. Of course, there are about 17,000 people groups, but 7,000 are still considered unreached. So what missiologists did, they actually categorized them into 5 major religious blocks. So to easily remind us, just remember your thumb. T for tribals, H for Hindus, U for unreligious. Most of China will be here, no? The communists, the secular humanists, so they would fall under this. And of course, the Muslims and the Buddhists. Now, how can you and when would you consider a group unreached? Well, it's unreached when there is no viable indigenous church that can disciple and reach their own people, or there are no real access to hear about Jesus through any media or other format. So, finishing the task. So, what is our finish line? How do we know when we finish? Well, in Matthew 24:14, it's very clear that this is our finish line. And what's that? And this gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed, will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, to all ethne, and then the end will come. The gospel of the kingdom should be preached to all people groups, to all tribes. Because we are not only called to go on a mission, but we are called to finish His mission. And when you run the race, you want to know where your finish line is so that you can really target, no? And really go straight so we can indeed win the race. So again, what's our finish line? To disciple not just some nations, not just most nations, but all nations, all people group. And again, Matthew 24:14 is our finish line. As we proclaim the gospel to all nations, the end will come. Now, if you look at the Philippines, there are at least 175 ethno-linguistic groups or tribes or nations. We have one country, the Philippines, but we have 175 tribes or nations. And out of the 175 nations, only 14 remains unreached. And all the 14 unreached people groups are Muslims. That's why we are really advocating for intentional adoption. We're challenging believers and churches to intentionally adopt a Filipino Muslim unreached people group, at least one of them. And of course, to help us remember the 14, we were thinking of ways to easily remember it. So we were able to come up with this. TY, it's like this, thank you. So that's Tausug and Yakan. Jib would be for Jamamapon, for Iranons and Badjaos. 2K, Kalagan, Kalibugan. 3M, Maguindanao, Maranao, Molbog. And 4S, Sama Bangingi, Sama Pangutaran, Sama Southern, and Sangil. So these are the 14 Filipino Muslim unreached people groups. The National Commission on Muslim Filipinos in 2012 estimated that there are about 10.7 million Muslims in the Philippines. Of course, the National Statistics Office in 2010 did a survey, and of course, Metro Manila, National Capital Region, was the main focus. But in 2010, there were only 105,000 Muslims in Metro Manila. But in 2014, it's actually 1.1 million. So there's a migration of 1 million from Mindanao to Metro Manila in just a span of 4 years. So if we are talking about intentional church planting, they are also doing intentional mosque planting. And they are, on the average, we are seeing that they are planting at least 40 mosques every year. There are 42,000 barangays in the Philippines today. And, 24,000 of these barangays have a Bible-believing church, an evangelical church. But the challenge is 18,000 of these 42,000 barangays yet does not have even one single Bible-believing church. And most of these communities, barangays, are actually predominantly Muslim, poor and depressed communities as well. So nobody would want to plant churches in these areas. Now, there are also, according to the Philippine Challenge, now 98,000 Bible-believing churches in the Philippines. But we involved in Muslim ministry had been trying to count how many churches are intentionally reaching Muslims. And we cannot even count 2,000 churches that are really intentional. So just look at the difference, 98,000 and not even 2,000. So about only 2% of the churches are involved in reaching Muslims. So adopting a Muslim community is what we advocate for and what we are challenging churches here in the Philippines. By the way, what is adoption? Well, it's caring for someone until they can care for themselves. So for a local church, adoption means caring about the eternal destiny of at least one people group and serving them until they can come to know life-transforming power of our Lord Jesus Christ. It is a long-term commitment to serve a people group until they see churches multiplying in their midst and they are sending missionaries to other people groups as well. So we're not just challenging churches to reach out to Muslims, but we want to also see Buddhists reach with the gospel. So there's an estimate of about at least 1 million Filipinos that are also adherent to Buddhism. So they attend a church, a Catholic church, but they are still practicing Buddhism. So we still consider them Buddhists. And there are about 400,000 Buddhists from mainland China that are here. And we were also counting. I was talking with ministries reaching out to Buddhists in the Philippines. And we were trying to count churches that are intentionally involved. And we cannot even count even 100 churches. Not even 100 churches reaching Buddhists. About 500,000 Hindus are in the Philippines. Of course, most are from India. Many are here to study. In fact, at present, we have about 24,000 Indian medical students. We have a lot of businessmen here, IT expats. Of course, some came for marriage and other purposes. But again, still about 500,000 Hindus here in the Philippines. I also was interacting with ministries involved in reaching Hindus in the Philippines. And also, we cannot even count 100 churches that are intentionally reaching Hindus. So there's a great challenge to really mobilize the church to reach unreached peoples with the gospel. So it's still about 3 billion people have never heard the gospel globally. But again, going back in the Philippines, the challenge is for us to really respond and be more intentional in reaching Muslims in the Philippines, Buddhists, and Hindus. And Hindus, of course. Of course, the tribals will always be there. Unreligious, no? From China. Many of them are here. In fact, they are estimating about over 1 million in the Philippines that are from mainland China that are actually unreligious. They don't believe in God. Now, what is the ratio of Christians with non-believers? In AD 100, one Christian have to share the gospel to 360 people, so everyone on planet Earth will hear the gospel. Well, praise God, many have responded to the gospel. That's why in 1500, it's 1:85. Today, it's 1:7. So just imagine if every believer will just take the initiative and to intentionally reach out to the lost, it's only 1:7. We can easily complete the Great Commission. But according to research, 95% of believers have never shared the gospel. So that makes it difficult because, one person would have to carry the load for others that are not involved. So intentional mobilization is needed. According to research and study, about 10% of the world's population are dedicated Christians. They are those that are involved in ministry. They are going out, sharing the gospel, discipling people, engaged in supporting the various ministries in their local churches. But 20% are nominal Christians. They attend church, but not regularly. They are not involved in ministry. So we have to mobilize them so that at least 1/3 of the world's population will be involved in reaching the lost and the unreached. No? So 28% are non-Christians within reach. Non-Christians within reach means they know a Christian, they know a Christian church, and they have access to the Bible and have the opportunity to hear the gospel, but have not responded. So that's why they are non-Christians within reach, 28% of the world's population. However, 42% are non-Christians, and they are in need of cross-cultural ministry. Somebody has to really possibly learn their language and their culture so that they can be reached with the gospel. So this is where the unreached peoples are. So we need to really mobilize the church so that we can respond to the challenge of completing the Great Commission. So our agenda must include all nations, not just some, not just most of the nations, but all nations. Go and make disciples of all nations. Because I really believe that partial obedience is disobedience. And it's very clear that indeed the mandate, the biblical mandate for evangelizing had been given to us. Why? Because our God is a God of mission. Our goal is to finish the race. The Apostle Paul was a finisher. In Romans, he said, "From Jerusalem to Illyricum, I have preached the gospel." John 4:34, Jesus also said that he was a finisher. "I have finished the task that the Father has given me." And of course, we are not only called again to go on a mission, but we are called to finish His mission. So we need to be finishers. If we are going to be like Jesus, we need to be finishers. The Apostle Paul, at the end of his life, said, "I have fought a good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." May we be strategic finishers just like the Apostle Paul. Let me end with this story. Mexico City, 1968. The marathon event had been finished for more than an hour. The crowd was dispersed, and a famous sports photographer was busy storing his equipment when he heard a stirring in the stadium. He looked up, and there before him was the lone, injured, and bloodied John Stephen Aquari of Tanzania, struggling to finish the race. As he hobbled across the finish line, the people, and few people who remained in the stadium, erupted in cheers and applause. Years later, as the photographer was doing follow-up stories on Olympic greats, he traveled to Aquari's village in Tanzania to photograph him and ask him a question that had haunted him for years. Why, when he was in the last place and in such pain, did Aquari continue to run the race? The young African looked at the photographer with wonder and said, "My country did not send me to start the race. They sent me to finish it." Brothers and sisters, we are called to be strategic finishers. Let's respond to this challenge. God bless you.